Colleagues, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to speak with you today on the final day of the NABC Fall Summit. While I certainly wish we were doing this in person, I'm hopeful this new virtual event has been beneficial to you both professionally and personally. I don't intend to fill this entire session with just my remarks. I want to hear from you. Any questions you have about the NABC, please submit them now in the Q&A function, and I'll answer them toward the end. One of my priorities for the NABC is to improve our transparency. Therefore, anything you'd like to ask, please send my way. Back in the summer, when I was extended the offer to succeed Jim Haney as the next executive director of the NABC, my decision, quite frankly, was easy. I accepted the offer, not because of the power and prestige of the position or the benefits that come with it. I took this job because at my core, I believe coaching is one of the most meaningful professions an individual can pursue. I believe coaches are uniquely positioned to impact young men and women through sport, and in doing so, also impact our society. I took this job because I want to help equip coaches to be better on and off the court, whether you coach at a major Division I college or a small town high school. Now, 4 months into the job, my faith in coaches is in all of you, and your ability to make a difference has grown stronger. I'm speaking to you today during perhaps the most unanticipated moment in our game's history. COVID-19 has in many ways turned college and scholastic athletics upside down. Nearly all of us and our players had our seasons abruptly canceled last spring, and we will face varying levels of uncertainty about the upcoming year. Many coaches have been furloughed, or worse yet, seen their positions eliminated because of pandemic-related budget cuts. As the virus continues to wreak havoc, our country is seeing stark rises in mental and emotional health issues, difficulties that coaches are not immune to. Throughout these challenges, and any that might arise in the future, my vision for the NABC is simple, that we're here for you and we're committed to walking beside you. As we map out the future of the NABC, every decision, every event, every initiative we undertake will be structured with the goal of serving, supporting, and elevating our member coaches. I see the NABC's investment in coaches as an investment in our game. And while, yes, our work on Division I issues might generate the most publicity, the NABC is committed to supporting all coaches at all levels. No matter your job title, your voice matters to the NABC. We're here to serve you, and we're working to develop new ways to get you engaged. As we look to the upcoming season, I believe the role of coaches has never been more important. We are the public faces of our game. Our words carry power. We have an opportunity to lead in the face of adversity, and we will ultimately set the tone for how the season is viewed. Our top priority must always be the health and safety of our student athletes, fellow coaches, our staffs, and local communities. We must never lose sight of that, regardless of what it might mean on the court. Things won't always be fair this season. Competitive inequalities are inevitable. Games will be canceled. Players will have to quarantine, and schedules will be imbalanced. If, however, our goal is to ultimately provide a meaningful experience for our student athletes, and I believe we all share that goal, we must remain flexible when these disruptions occur. This season will not be perfect, but I believe if we all do our part, there will still be championship celebrations and nets to cut down this spring. In addition to the pandemic, we also find ourselves in the midst of an unprecedented national reckoning with racism and systemic injustice. I've watched proudly as countless coaches and student athletes have committed to being part of the solution, declaring that Black Lives Matter isn't just a rallying cry for protest, but everyday words to live by. Early in the summer, we formed the Nabc Committee on Racial Reconciliation to address social justice issues in college athletics, and I am immensely grateful for their efforts thus far. We called on the Ncaa and higher education to eliminate the SAT and ACT as requirements for eligibility and admission, recognizing long-standing concerns about race and income disparities vis-a-vis test performance. We continue to make progress on this issue, and I'm optimistic that change is on the horizon. We urged all high schools and colleges to start requiring a course on Black history, and we have supported a series of efforts aimed at improving diversity in college athletics. Among them, the McClendon Minority Leadership Initiative, the West Coast Conference's Russell Rule, and the Athletic Director U Collegiate Coaching Diversity Pledge. Yet, the most meaningful impact from coaches has been on the topic of voting. The Nabc joined a chorus of coaches advocating to make Election Day a required team day off. Now, as you've likely heard, next Tuesday and every federal election day moving forward, coaches and players will officially step away from basketball and instead focus on fulfilling our civic duty. Thanks to the passion and commitment of a grassroots group of coaches, the Nabc partnered with the nonpartisan All-In Campus Democracy Challenge to improve student-athlete voter engagement, and the results were nothing short of remarkable. More than 1,000 coaches from over 550 programs took the Coaches Voter Engagement Pledge to get their teams registered and educated on the voting process. By our count, over 8,000 student athletes have been impacted by this initiative. Their voices will be heard this election day, many for the very first time. To those of you who made voting a priority in your program, I offer my deepest gratitude. Change doesn't ultimately start with political leaders or ballot measures. It starts with you and me. Thank you for making a difference. Many other issues are currently being addressed by the Nabc Board of Directors and our various committees. How can impending transfer legislation preserve competitive equity while also expanding opportunities for student athletes? How should coaches be preparing for name, image, and likeness changes? How can coaches' perspectives become more influential in the NCAA legislative and governance process? What role should the Nabc play in rules enforcement and compliance? On these issues and many more, the Nabc remains committed to advocating for the best interest of coaches, student athletes, and the good of our game. Professional development is a must for all of us, no matter what level. For decades, the Nabc has almost exclusively focused our professional development and networking opportunities on the Nabc convention at the Final Four. Rest assured, we will continue to deliver the convention as a marquee event for coaches, whether in person or virtually. But times have changed and we must evolve. Work is already underway to adjust our member benefits and programming to support coaches' development year-round, not simply for 1 week at the Final Four. This summit and our new educational webinar series with our colleagues at the WBCA are a good start, and there's more to come. As coaches develop into better leaders, not only does it benefit your careers, it improves the student-athlete experience and the overall health of our sport. This is our mission. This is why we exist as an association. I said earlier that I believe coaches are in a unique position to make an impact on young men and women. My life is better because of the coaches who care deeply about me. It's why I left corporate America to pursue a career in coaching. And it's why I'm here speaking to you today. The future of our profession and the sport we all love is bright. On behalf of our entire NABC staff, I wish you all a healthy and successful upcoming season. Now, let's get to your questions.
All right, thanks, Craig. We got about 5 questions that have popped up so far, and I would encourage, excuse me, any coaches who are watching to hit that Q&A function on your screen, and Craig is happy to answer any and all questions that you've got. Craig, our first question from a coach: what are some of the ways you'd like the NABC to engage non-Division I coaches moving forward?
Well, I want to see our non-Division I coaches. I want to see those folks participating at the same level as our Division I coaches. So, for example, we have started a trial program, the Player Development Coalition, where we're getting feedback from our Division I players. I want to see that that kind of coalition all the way down the ranks. I would love to see a couple of more in Division I. I would love to see a couple in Division II and a couple in Division III. And if it works out, in my mind, the future is having one per conference. So we get that feedback from all of those players through their coaches and their teams. And what I'd like to see is every initiative that we start out with at Division I to eventually become an initiative for Division II, Division III, Division IV. Right now, we most of our committees are made up of Division I coaches. It's my thought and my vision that we'll have a number of standing committees mirroring the ones that we have for Division I and Division II and Division III, Ncaa, high school, all the way down.
Thanks, Craig. Our next question is just kind of a general question. What is your vision for the NABC looking ahead 5 years from now?
Well, 5 years from now, it would be my wish that every single coach was a member of the NABC. And that means from our Division I coaches through our Division II to Division III Ncaa, but also high school coaches, grassroots coaches, and coaches who are just out there coaching their kids. I think we have a lot to offer. We have a lot of knowledge in our organization to offer anyone who aspires to be a coach. And I'd also like to see us play a more critical and collegial role with the NCAA in developing coaches, developing criteria for coaches, whether that is accreditation or certification. I can see us being a real educational option for those folks who want to get into coaching. And with regard to sort of the legislative and advocacy aspect, I would like to see the NABC as being, at the forefront of issues rather than coming in at the tail end. When there's going to be legislative change in government, not just at the NCAA level, but at the national level, that people seek counsel from our coaches, because our coaches are the guys who are doing the job and have been doing the job for many years. To sum that up, I really see us playing a much bigger, more forward-facing role in society. Eventually being sort of the place people come to for leadership training and education on dealing with young people. I could see all of that being in our strategic plan for 5 to 10 years out.
Thanks, Craig. Our next question is this. Coaches have had little opportunities to recruit this season due to COVID-19. How do you see this moving forward so that high school student athletes will have opportunities to earn a college scholarship?
Well, it sounds like you're asking about this year in particular. I think this year, just like I said in my remarks, this year is going to be a different type of year, and everybody is having to kind of adjust, and that includes the recruits that our coaches are trying to are trying to recruit. And the platform that people have been using, these Zoom platforms or these team platforms, I think that is a way to sort of get to know your recruits once we can start recruiting again. And mind you, I know that managing a roster is going to be tough for all of us, but I think if we stay in constant discussion and counsel with ourselves internally and with the NCAA externally, we'll come up with the right answer. But this is a year that is like no other. So there's no platform on how to do this. I think once we get back to being able to actually recruit folks, I think a lot of virtual recruiting is going to need to be done, and you're going to need to be able to find other ways to evaluate talent.
Thanks, Craig. And just a reminder to any of our coaches who are viewing, you can submit a question by clicking the live Q&A function there on your screen. Craig, our next question: how does the NABC work with the Ncaa on basketball legislation?
Well, that's I'm learning how that happens currently, but we have thanks to the NCAA and Jim Haney and the folks who sort of came before me. I have, and so does the executive director of the WBCA, Danielle Donahue. Both of us have a seat at the men's and women's basketball oversight committee, and that is where a lot of the operations for college basketball exist, and where the discussions about issues start. So that is the first level. The second level of that, and we're non-voting members. There are also two coaches on the men's basketball oversight committee. This year it's Matt Painter and Konzo Martin, who are our coaching representatives. And between the three of us, we have a really good voice, thanks to Judy McLeod, who's the chair of that, and Dan Gavitt and his staff. We have a real voice. There are agenda items that they want us to comment on. They want our opinions on things. And this will help us get to what I was speaking about earlier, is being ahead of issues and being a part of the solution rather than coming up behind on issues. And now what happens from the Men's Basketball Oversight Committee, legislation gets pushed up to the council, and the council votes on changes. And that's how the formal part of that happens. But there's an informal part of this whole process. And Dan Gavitt and Charnel Kemper and that group, I talk to a lot. 3 or 4 times a week, we're on the phone together talking about issues, especially at a time like this, when we're trying to figure out how to get back to play. You guys will be hearing from Dr. Brian Hainline later today. He's been invaluable in talking to our coaches about how to prepare for this upcoming season. Having access to the people at the NCAA is not been an issue whatsoever. The relationship is extremely collegial all the way up and down the ranks. So our members should know that our staff is in there plugging away for coaches on a daily basis. So this isn't, it is very strategic. It is not happenstance. and the way we want to approach this is very is very sort of administratively and being a part of the process. And I feel very, very comfortable with the having a voice at that table and being able to speak my mind on behalf of all coaches. And we have that at the Division I level. That, as I mentioned in my remarks, that gets the most publicity. But we also talk with the Division II folks and the Division III folks, and we're trying to mirror that that collective collaboration all the way up and down the ranks of the NCAA.
Greg, our next question from a coach. What are some other areas coaches can focus on regarding their career development beyond networking and X's and O's?
You know, I that's a terrific question, and it is something that we are planning for as a staff. You know, there's a few things that I think there is always room for more education, and not on X's and O's as this question is, but on the rules of the game and sort of the workings of the NCAA too. I think understanding that can help you in your career. I think there is going to be a huge need to get up to speed on mental health warning signs. And that's something that we are going to try to have by the time we have our next gathering, which is probably going to be at the convention at the Final Four, where we talk a lot about training our coaches to be able to see signals in their players, in their staffs, in themselves, to stay mentally healthy. I think that an educational process on our own physical health and well-being as coaches is paramount. You know, this is a stressful business, and folks who aren't coaches don't really know. I think that is an area. There's another area that I think we want to focus on, and this could fall under mental health, but I think it should have its own category, and it's familial health, right? Because you know, our spouses know what it's like to have a family that whose livelihood is dependent upon 15, 18 through 22-year-olds, and that in and of itself is a stressful and different way to live. And you have to be prepared to move, and you have to be able to find schools for your kids. And I think that is something that I think that we sort of take for granted as coaches. It's part of the job, but that's something I think that we could add some value from. And then, from a different angle, less health and more sort of financial health. A lot of us as coaches are really focused on doing well for our student athletes, doing well for the people we work for, our staffs. We need to be able to sort of have a financial acumen to be able to save for a rainy day and be able to weather the storm of either being out of a job or having to take a lesser job. That happens all the time for us coaches. So I think that's something that we want to have some education on. And then trying to get our coaches out there to sort of interface with the people who are above them in their own organization. I was fortunate because I came to coaching from corporate America. So I was used to sort of managing up. There's a term called managing up. And I think it's really important for our young coaches to learn how to talk to their superiors, whether it's an associate head coach or it's the head coach. And I think it's important for our head coaches to know how to talk to their athletic directors and talk to their presidents, because they're going to come in contact with all those people. As I said in my remarks, the basketball coaches are the face of the sport, and sometimes the face of their schools, depending on which school you're at, and being able to navigate that is just as important as the X's and O's. So I appreciate that question. That was a really good question, and it's something that we're planning for.
We've got about 5 minutes left, Craig, so maybe we can do a couple quick hitter questions here before we wrap up.
Okay.
First, what are the plans for the NABC convention if we can't be in Indianapolis?
Well, so right now, if we can't be, let me step back, and our staff knows this. In our planning for the convention, we have, because we don't know what the future is like, we're putting together a parallel strategy, right? We're planning for an in-person convention, should we be able to do that, and we're planning for a virtual convention. So we're planning for both of those. And then while we're doing that, we're keeping in our mind that we may be able to have a few people at the convention and also do something virtually. So there's three things that we're working on. But to answer your question, if there is not a if there's not an in-person convention, we will have this kind of fall summit on a bigger scale, and we'll have some networking events. We'll have all the things. We will try to have all the things that we have at a normal convention, only doing it via Zoom. So we're prepared. We're preparing for everything. So do not worry. There will be something to do to celebrate ourselves and the Final Four.
Thanks, Craig. Another quick hitter question. How can coaches continue to make voter engagement a priority moving forward, even after this upcoming election is over?
Yeah, that's a terrific question. And I think the best way to go about it is to continue to talk about voting when you do your team bonding and team education activities. You don't have to do it all the time, but every now and then, maybe you plan on doing it quarterly. Just mention to people that there are still elections that go on in the spring, and some that go on at different times, and you just keep that in the back of people's minds, because learning how to be a participant in voting and voting all the time is just like learning how to dribble with your left hand. You just got to keep doing it until it becomes second nature.
All right, Craig, and we'll let you close with this one and then wrap things up. This is a question from a coach. Have you ever considered partnering with USA Basketball Youth Development? They have a gold certification program for coaches at the youth level.
That's a really good question, and I've been in touch with Jim Tooley, who runs USA Basketball. There is some synergies there, and I have considered something to that effect. I don't have a plan for it just yet. We've been spending a lot of our time on so we're trying to fly the plane and build it at the same time. But I think that they're doing some things that really are interesting, and it would be nice to be able to partner with USA Basketball in any event. So really appreciate that question. And I want to thank all of you who have participated and signed up for this fall summit. This initially started out as a plan to sort of prepare for a virtual convention. In the event that we had to have one, it wouldn't be our first. And you folks have made this a terrific event for us and for our coaches. And I want to thank all of the panelists who have come before, and I want you to be prepared coming up later today for our keynote from Dr. Brian Hainline, who is a terrific speaker. He's made me feel really confident about the season going forward, and look forward to seeing you this afternoon with him. In the meantime, thank you for your support of the NABC, and thank you for the support of our fall summit. See you.